Striker Nicholas Jackson is supposedly attracting interest from none other than Tottenham Hotspur, but one Spurs correspondent doesn't think there's much in these rumours and does not expect Spurs to make the move. Man City are supposedly readying an €81 million bid for winger Pedro Neto. Philip Jorgensen has agreed his difficult negotiation for his loan to Strasbourg, and it's expected to happen in the next 24 hours. Leading up to tomorrow's pre-season friendly against Juventus in Asia, Cole Palmer and Levi Colwill both abstained from full team training. Xabi Alonso took today's press conference leading up to the match tomorrow alongside midfielder Moises Caicedo, and they both had a lot of interesting things to say about Mykhailo Mudryk, Jordan Henderson, Nicholas Jackson, Enzo Fernandez, and Caicedo wanting to be a Chelsea legend. Welcome, Blue Believers, to another episode of the Stamford Sync, where we are syncing up with everything Chelsea FC. And August is just feeling like there's going to be a lot of double uploads, right? Because there's just so much news coming out at the moment, because we've still got transfer stuff flying around. The team are in pre-season training. There's still so much to go on. So let's have a look at what else is going on in the world of Chelsea today. Chelsea Dodgers posted this via Kieran Gill of the Daily Mail. Just in. Tottenham are interested in Nicholas Jackson. No formal approach to open club-to-club talks as of yet. Sources have confirmed that Spurs currently have Jackson under consideration. Chelsea are understood to value Jackson at £65 million. So look, man, selling Andre Santos to Man United is one thing, and he looks like he's already doing quite well over there. But selling Nicholas Jackson to Tottenham, no, I don't like it, man. I don't like it at all. Look, you know, 65 million, if we can get 65 mil for Nicholas Jackson, that's obviously a great price, bearing in mind we already made 13 mil just from loaning him to Bayern Munich last season, so that'd take his total profit up to 78 million pounds, which would be phenomenal, right? But do we want to be selling? Because look, it just feels like it, like knowing our luck, selling Nicholas Jackson to Tottenham feels like the one that comes back to bite us, doesn't it? And look, I don't even know, man. I'm not really sure where I sit on this, to be honest, because it's Tottenham, it's Spurs. But and this has got nothing to do with them beating us in pre-season, because we had half of our academy team out and they had most of their full team, and do you know what I mean? It's just I'm not too fussed about that. We had a lot more World Cup players away than they did. But Nicholas Jackson to Spurs just feels like the story that we will be looking at it a year later being like, why did we do that? Why did we do that? Which is weird, because you would have thought I'd think that about Aston Villa, but it's the rivalry, right? It's the rivalry. If Nicholas Jackson goes to Aston Villa and they do really well, same as Alejandro Garnacho, I'll just be like, yeah, wicked, it is what it is. But if he goes to Tottenham... It's just brutal, isn't it? So look, Tottenham, I guess you could argue, really need some reinforcements in terms of their attacking line, because almost all of the reinforcements, actually pretty much all of the reinforcements they've already made have pertained to their defence and their midfield. You know, Sandro Tonali, Mateus Fernandes, Senesi, and, you know, Andy Robertson and Van Hecke, and do you know what I mean? They've really improved the core of their squad for sure. Matty's Tell looked pretty good against us the other day, but up front they are currently lumbered with Dominic Solanke, another ex-Chelsea player who hasn't come back to bite us, so maybe there's a story in that, and Richarlison, who got a goal against us the other day, but doesn't score much for them. He hasn't really kicked on since he left Everton, has he? So the other interesting thing is he's actually quite a similar profile to Matty's Tell. Like, Matty's Tell was bought as a striker, but looked really good against us on left wing the other day. We had Palestra on that side, who's a really attacking player. But at the same time, I think it would be disingenuous to take away from Matisse Tell's performance in that game in Australia. So I just don't like it. And I'm hoping that it's probably not true, because there is another little piece of information that comes with this story. So there is a gentleman called Alistair Gold, who is a Tottenham-specific correspondent for Football.London and the Daily Mirror. So, he's a Tottenham journalist, right? And he is saying it's short and sweet, Spurs not expected to explore any move for Nicholas Jackson. And this came out a little while after the initial round of news came out about Nicholas Jackson, right? So, I'm hoping, look, I'd rather keep Nicholas Jackson than sell him to Spurs at the end of the day. That's just the bitter, biased fan in me, do you know what I mean? Like I say, I didn't, you know, bird no bones selling Mason Mount to Man United, like I didn't really care. I didn't really care about selling Andre Santos either. Kovacic to Man City and stuff like that. Like, you know, I'm not overly too fussed, because it is possible to strengthen your rivals, and we've done it before, do you know what I mean? Like, when we got Giroud from Arsenal, and he was a really big player for us, sort of, and, you know, there's stories like Ashley Cole, and, you know, we sent them Gallas and stuff, didn't we? So, you know, I'm not overly too fussed about the whole strengthening rivals thing. Like, I just want to build a good team, but at the same time, there is something about this one that I really just don't like, because with I guess what it is with Nicholas Jackson is he's still on the precipice of, we're not really sure whether he's good or bad. A lot of people will come out and say he's good, a lot of people will come out and say he's bad, but I think the truth is, He still hasn't crossed the line to, it still feels like there's potential there for him to go on and turn into a better player. Now, what I will say about this as well is, personally, all of the Tottenham noise aside, I genuinely think Nicholas Jackson will go to Aston Villa, because we spent 117 mil on Morgan Rogers and we sent them Alejandro Garnacho. So at the moment, we're 117 mil down, essentially. Do you know what I mean? So with Nicholas Jackson, I just don't expect us to just lay that money down in Aston Villa. When you think about the deal that we did before with Amari Kellyman and Ian Matson, we've been trying to do the Nicholas Jackson, Morgan Rogers deal for a while, but UEFA kept up crawling up on us and being like, no, stop overvaluing your players. But, we've done it now. And so the interesting thing, I counted it the other day. So the new rule is that if you sell a player to each other within 45 days, it has to count as a swap deal, and that amount of money from one player gets deducted from the other, so that the profit is only made from the difference, which would take Aston Villa's profit from Morgan Rogers down to 60 mil, something like that, in and around 60, 70 mil, which is a lot less than 117 when it comes down to it. Now, the interesting thing, the day it was announced that we signed Morgan Rogers was exactly 45 days before September the 1st, which is obviously the end of the window. So look, tinfoil hat time, get your tinfoil hats on, people. I think Nicholas Jackson to Aston Villa, unless Xabi Alonso absolutely loves him, and maybe even if that, I think Nicholas Jackson to Aston Villa is a done deal already. And I just think the only reason it hasn't happened yet is because if it happens before September the 1st, which is literally after that 45-day cut-off, then the Jackson money will be deducted from their profit for the Morgan Rogers deal, which will, and they're in Europe again next year, and they're still under a lot, because we're not in Europe next year, so we're under less pressure from UEFA, but Aston Villa are playing in European competition next season, and the problem is, if you don't comply with their rules, you cannot be allowed to register players in Europe for that season. So that's my tinfoil hat thing about the whole Nicholas Jackson situation. I think the Tottenham news, look, I get it from the profile perspective. They need a striker. We're looking to sell Nicholas Jackson. Maybe there's been a conversation that's happened around somewhere that has leaked out, and that's why we're talking about it. But you've got Alistair Gold, who's a Tottenham correspondent, saying no, they're not expected to move for him. And like I say, for me, I just think he's going to go to Aston Villa, and I think it's going to happen on transfer deadline day. And guys, if you've made it this far into today's episode of the Stamford Sync, please do me the distinct honour of liking and sharing the video, subscribe to the channel, or just roast me in the comments, whatever gets you through your day. Right, so next up we're going to talk a little bit about Pedro Neto. Transfer News Live posted this via Sun Sport. Manchester City are set to make an €81 million offer to Chelsea for Pedro Neto. Tottenham, Liverpool and AC Milan have also been linked with the winger this summer. Just as I was editing this video, excuse the vest, it's very hot in my office, Fabrizio Romano has just posted literally about Pedro Neto now. He said, Manchester City make direct contact with Pedro Neto's camp as talks start over possible move. Neto among MCFC target if Savinho goes to Spurs, while he's understood to be on Tottenham's list as a backup option. Deal also depends on Chelsea valuation. So pretty much everything else I say in the video is pertinent to the situation, but just as a quick messy update, Manchester City have actually made direct contact with Pedro Neto. Enjoy the rest of the video. So, real money, €81 million is about £75 million, which could be in and around 70 mil plus 5 add-ons, I guess. I wouldn't expect them to just come and lay down 75 mil for him, but there's more news about Neto to City. Is Neto the only player? Because obviously there was talks about Malagusto at the beginning of the window, but I have a feeling that's probably just not going to happen. I mean, the thing is, Malagusto's not even back from his World Cup holiday yet, so maybe things accelerate. Then obviously Pedro Neto is back and available now, which, maybe there is still a chance. Maybe it's the same. Maybe they could buy Pedro Neto for 75 mil, Malagusto for 75 mil. That's a cheeky 150 right there. And Enzo Fernandez for 120, which would mean that Manchester City would give us £270 million in one window for 3 players that we are neither here or there about keeping in the squad. That would be phenomenal, wouldn't it? Mate, that would be generational if that happened, but it's not going to happen, is it? Tottenham, the Tottenham link is kind of new to me, actually. The Liverpool link has obviously been bubbling under the surface for a while. We addressed the AC Milan one the other day. I just don't think that will happen because Italian clubs don't spend 70 mil on players in general. Do you know what I mean? It's really rare, especially recently. So Manchester City and Liverpool for me would be the 2 front runners, and Liverpool, I guess, are talking to Bradley Barcola at the moment, so maybe that changes things depending on how much it costs. Have they got another 200-300 mil to spend after spending half a billion last window? Do you know what I mean? It's quite funny, isn't it, with Liverpool, actually, because, you know, Jamie Carragher in particular loved to throw the fact that Chelsea spent £1 billion around quite a lot, and obviously they're getting close to catching up to that now, aren't they? If they buy Barcola and Neto, they'll be getting pretty close to catching up to that. But the prices have just gone nuts, man. That's just what football is right now, isn't it? So, guys, Pedro Neto, do you think City or Liverpool is more likely? I think he'd do better at Iraiola's team for their style of football, but at the same time, he's obviously got the pre-existing relationship with Enzo Maresca, and if the stars align, he could take some friends with him in the shape of Malagusto and Enzo Fernandez for nearly 300 million, and that would be chef's kiss. Right, next up is more about Philip Jorgensen. Nizar Kinsella posted this exclusive. Chelsea goalkeeper Philip Jorgensen has said yes to a loan move to Strasbourg. Deal described to me as 99% certain, follows Genesis Antwi joining on from the academy to make his first steps in men's football. So, yesterday, day before, I've done so many videos recently, I'm starting to lose count. It was reported that there was a delay in the loan move because of difficult negotiations, and I've still got no idea. A couple of you guys made some suggestions in the comments about fair market value. If it was a sale, I'd probably get that, but it's like, so what else I've seen about this is it's looking to be a straight dry loan. No obligation, no nothing. We're just loaning him there for a season, very much like we did with Mike Penders. I don't know if there might be a break clause in January if another team wants to come in for him, maybe, like I said, I mentioned that the other day. But ultimately, it looks like regardless of the left hand struggling to negotiate with the right, we have come to an agreement with ourselves, and Philip Jorgensen, it looks like he's going to be Strasbourg's goalkeeper next season. So we're going to move into something a little bit worrying, and only a little bit worrying. It's not the end of the world because it's pre-season and maybe we're just being overprotective. But Simon Johnson posted this. Cole Palmer and Levi Colwill are now watching CFC training from the bench. Palmer was working away from the group earlier, and I didn't spot Colwill taking part at all. So there's been a few things flying around about Cole Palmer and Levi Colwill potentially not going to be available for tomorrow's game. And that's just a little bit of a worry, isn't it? Because Colwill's coming back from an ACL injury. Palmer's spent the last season and a half recovering from that groin injury. So hopefully it's just us being really, really careful. The thing is, the centre-back situation, if Levi Colwill's injured, all of a sudden it looks a bit scary again, doesn't it? Like, it feels great. At the moment, it feels like we've got well too many centre-backs and what's going on. But the second that Levi Colwill's injured, we find ourselves in almost exactly the same position that we were in before, where we don't actually have a backup for him. So, you know, I reported on something earlier in today's video, actually, about how we were looking at Scalvini from Atalanta, but in that tweet, from the article, it kind of went on to talk about how we are interested in finding a centre-back with the same kind of profile as Jordan Henderson and Danny Welbeck. So, maybe, and obviously we did with John Stones, do you know what I mean? We were looking to do that with John Stones already. So maybe someone in my comments, absolute legend, was like, yeah, mate, Lewis Dunk from Brighton. I was like, yeah, I'm here for that, man. I'm here for that. But, you know, just to be honest, it's one of those, isn't it? Like, maybe we do need to start thinking about that other centre-back profile to replace Levi Colwill, because the Levi Colwill's thing is the passing, right? And Tosin Adarabioyo is the next best at that role. Do we trust Tosin? Do you know what I mean? Like, imagine Levi Colwill gets injured again, man. All worrying about that. So, look, it's pre-season, not worth taking risks. That's the big caveat about all of this, right? It might just be a case of maybe they felt something and maybe they just want to take it easy. And, you know, there's no point throwing them into the game. We've got a load of other players back. We've still got people that we can put in the defence and stuff. I saw something earlier about a drill 11 that was taking place and João Pedro was playing in the 10, which isn't ideal, but obviously when we've got Morgan Rogers here, we're not going to need to worry about that as much. So, Cole Palmer, Levi Colwill, potentially injured. Don't love that, but we'll see what happens. So, Xabi Alonso did his press conference before the Juventus game tomorrow, and he had some interesting things to say. First off, we're going to talk about what he had to say about Mykhailo Mudryk. Xabi Alonso on if Mudryk will play tomorrow. He came directly from the airport to the hotel. Yesterday was more about the feelings and emotions than to assess the fitness levels. But yes, he could play. 90 minutes too early. He can be selected. He can play. So, look, Mudryk gets 60 to 90, do you know what I mean? We've been making changes at the 60th minute, you know, for the last couple of games now in pre-season, so maybe not even that, but, you know, I expect Mudryk to get minutes tomorrow. And look, they've really been reveling in the good feeling about Mudryk coming back, right, after what he's been through, like, and, you know, Xabi said there himself, it was more about the emotion. So I think it'd be good for the team and even the fans to see Mudryk on the pitch and just kind of revel in that good feeling for a moment. Do you know what I mean? And it would be good for Mudryk as well, albeit it does sound like he's going to be on his way out to Strasbourg. But you never know. He comes on for those 90 minutes and tears Juventus a new one and scores a hat-trick, and then maybe the conversation changes. But either way, he will be available for tomorrow's game. And then Xabi Alonso was asked about Henderson. Obviously, Henderson picked up an injury in the World Cup. So Xabi Alonso was asked about when he's fit. With Jordan, we expect he can start training with all the rest of the players in the semis. We need to assess with Jordan how long he will not be able to compete because of the injury he had. So it's weird because it says the semis and it's like, what do you mean? And it's like these pre-season games are like tournaments. Do you know what I mean? They're cups. Obviously Tottenham won the Australia one and we're in another one now. So yeah, it's just it's a pre-season tournament. It's wild, isn't it? But yeah, so Jordan Henderson is going to be available before the end of pre-season, which is good. Yeah, I literally forgot about the injury. It's funny because we've seen so much news about signing Jordan Henderson, and we've talked about his availability and what he's going to bring to the pitch and that, and barely anyone, myself included, is talking about the fact that he's actually injured at the moment, so that's quite funny. Right, next up, this one's directly from Nizar Kinsella with Alonso on Jackson. Nico is a great player, a threat against any defence, so we want players that can compete. Nico for sure is one of them. We need to go day by day checking options, but we are happy Nico is with us. And obviously this is like, you know, backing off of what we opened the video about him being linked to Spurs and stuff as well. Yeah, I'm sure, and like, you know, I did my tinfoil hat moment about Aston Villa. I genuinely believe that unless Nico Jackson is absolutely unbelievable and Xabi Alonso puts his foot down and says we've got to keep this guy, I think he'll go to Aston Villa. But either way, he'll take part in pre-season. You know, he'll probably play. You know, he'll play maybe the first game, or he'll be available for the first game because it's the 24th of August, isn't it? So that'll be 1 week before the window ends. So chances are we might see him a little bit on the pitch, and if he absolutely lights things up and he's amazing in training, then yeah, okay, maybe, you know, maybe there's a chance we keep him. But if not, like I said, I do think the Aston Villa thing will happen. And next up, there's a few little bits from Moises Caicedo. The first one is just let's revel, let's just feel good about the fact that we've got a player who's not moaning about being one of our players at the moment, and not only that, wants to be one of the very best. Fabrizio Romano posted this. Moises Caicedo said in the press conference, when they offered me a new deal, I said yes, as my desire is clear. I want to become a legend at this club. Yes, Moises. Yes, you absolute legend. I love that, man. We don't hear enough of that, do you know what I mean? Because this is the thing. I've got no problem with players that don't say this, because at the end of the day, even a Cole Palmer, a João Pedro, whatever, you might be thinking, yeah, Chelsea's a great opportunity now because I'm very young and I can develop really well here and play high-level football. But they might have, yes, João Pedro especially, might have his eye on that Barcelona move one day. Maybe wants to go to Real Madrid one day. Maybe there's options for PSG or Bayern Munich or some of the other biggest clubs in the world, do you know what I mean? So, you know, you don't want to just come out and be like, I want to be a legend at this club. But for Caicedo to say this at this age sets a precedent, because if he says this now, and I just had to take a little break there. It's sweating in my office. It's supposed to be cooling down. But yeah, if Caicedo says this right now and does an Enzo Fernandez, it's going to be even worse, isn't it? It's going to be even worse, because I don't think Fernandez has come out at any point being like, I want to be a Chelsea legend. But, you know, I love this from Moises Caicedo, and I don't know what the Chelsea connection is, if there is any at all, but he already showed loyalty even before he joined us, because there was the whole Liverpool thing, wasn't there? Like, they matched our bid, and then we went in with a little bit more money, and he said, I'd already agreed with Chelsea that I wanted to go to Chelsea, so I said no to the Liverpool thing. And Liverpool were a much better looking team to go to at that time than we were. So I just love this from Moises Caicedo. I think he's a phenomenal player. I still think he's got some growing to do, but under an elite manager like Xabi Alonso, the sky is literally the limit. And the last thing we're going to talk about today is what Moises Caicedo had to say when he was asked about Enzo Fernandez. He said, I love Enzo. He knows I have a lot of respect for him because, as we know, the player he is. Not just a player, he is a great person. I want him to stay, but I'm not going to talk about that. If he stays here, it's going to be massive for us. So, you know, the language isn't Enzo's a Chelsea player, I can't wait to play with him next season or whatever. The language is still very open about Enzo Fernandez at the moment, and I think Xabi Alonso was asked about him earlier as well. But yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Like I say, the language is so open about Enzo Fernandez at the moment, albeit other than potentially City, Atletico would be wild, but maybe Atletico. There's so few teams that could actually afford him at the end of the day because of the price that we've set at the moment. So look, the Enzo Fernandez saga feels like it's kind of gone quiet for a while, and I'm grateful because it feels like we've been talking about Enzo Fernandez since the last international break when the season was going, and obviously then the the transfer window opened and he's pushing for Real Madrid, and then all the World Cup stuff happens and it's just Enzo Fernandez all of the time. But we're still no closer to actually knowing what's going to happen with him, right? And at the end of the day, that is coming to a close because he will be back with the squad very soon. He was in the final. Obviously, Spain and Argentina in the final of the World Cup, so their players will be the last ones to rejoin the squad. But at the end of the day, this doesn't scream to me Enzo staying, or the players have got any idea what's going on either. Do you know what I mean? It all sounds like it's really open at the moment. So, guys, let me know. Let's all tinfoil hat it together. Let me know in the comments. What happens with Enzo? What do you think at the moment? Like, personally, if I just nail my colours to the mast, I appreciate Enzo and I think he's a world-class player, but I don't think he fits the deep line position. We've just bought Morgan Rogers, so we've got attacking midfielders aplenty at the moment. So, as an advanced player, I don't even think he's the best number 10 option. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not convinced that, even outside of all of the drama, I'm not convinced that, albeit you can make use of his goal-scoring ability, that he's actually conducive to being the midfielder that Xabi Alonso wants in his team. You can kind of see that when you look at the players we've been linked with, the likes of Granit Xhaka. Obviously, we've got Jordan Henderson. We've had a bid knock back for Alex Scott, and Adam Wharton has been looked at as well. And these are all very different players to Enzo Fernandez, right? So evidently, it already seems obvious that Xabi Alonso wants a midfielder in the squad that is not the same profile as Enzo Fernandez. Does he think he can convert Enzo Fernandez into that? Look, even Reece James, I think, is a better fit for that position than Enzo Fernandez is. Then what do you do with Enzo Fernandez? Do you play him in the 10? Do you play him in the half space? It's just going to be one of those. And if he's struggling to get into the team, because we do buy another midfielder and he suits the style better, and Morgan Rogers and Cole Palmer are all smashing it in the attacking midfield spots, then you've got the most expensive bench player of all time. Potentially. So what do you guys think is going to happen, and what do you want to happen? Let me know in the comments. So guys, we're going to start wrapping the video up there, but I want to know what you think about everything that we've talked about today. Nicholas Jackson to Spurs. Do you see it? Do you think it's possible? Do you think, even with us seemingly not caring about selling to rivals as we have done in seasons past, do you think that Blue Coal will do it? Do you think that the 65 million is worth it? Or do you believe Alistair Gold, the Tottenham correspondent, that Spurs aren't expected to do it? And do you agree with my crazy tinfoil hat conspiracy that I think one way or the other he goes to Aston Villa? City are supposedly preparing an €81 million bid for Pedro Neto. Philip Jorgensen is very close to getting his loan move to Strasbourg after difficult negotiations. Cole Palmer and Levi Colwill sat out of training today. How worried do we need to be about that? Mudryk has a chance of playing tomorrow, and I'm not going to lie to you, even though I don't think he's going to get into the team, I'm excited to see him play again. It'll be really interesting, if anything, just as a case study, to see how well he does after being out for so long. Jordan Henderson is injured. I just completely forgot about it. Despite the links away, Xabi Alonso is being steadfast in saying that he really likes the type of player that Nico Jackson is and thinks there is an option for him to compete in the squad. Moises Caicedo wants to be a Chelsea legend, and as much as he loves Enzo Fernandez, his language seems to leave the idea open that even the players aren't sure what's going to happen with him. Nice one, guys. Thanks very much for sticking around until the end of the video. If you did, I'll catch up with you all very, very soon. Take it easy. Peace.